I've been fortunate to work with some of the biggest names in our industry. I can put the pieces together over and over and over again in different things. You can usually get them to do almost anything that needs to be done in the business to move it forward. This is why they're all broke, pretending to be rich. They're crazy.
Hey, Emma, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Stoked to be here.
Right, so full disclosure, we know each other. We're both part of the phenomenal community within Driven. We've worked with each other. We've kind of hung out with each other. We drank. So we kind of know each other what's about. But one of the things that I've always admired about you, and the reason I wanted to talk to you, especially about your new book, and you're pre-warning everyone, I'm going to be talking about this book because it's the gem you need that you're ignoring. You've always been a systems person.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs, we're not. We get caught up in the emotion, we get caught up in the fantasy, and when it comes down to kind of like the systems and processes and working out how things, we're like, oh, that's the dull stuff. It's the conversation we don't want to have, but the one that keeps us the money. When did you first realize that the systems and the process was actually what you needed to focus on first?
Right away. I've been in operations for 26 years, right? But I've only been in this industry for a decade. And I met my business partner, Travis Gomez, about a decade ago now. And I was working so hard to not do my job. Like, I had just come into the industry and I was with this really amazing entrepreneur, visionary leader, had phenomenal ideas, but he had me doing all these things that were busy. It was like crazy busy work just to avoid operations. And I was like, oh, wait, no. After the first month, I was like, I'm never going to do any of that again, because that can all be negated forever with a few systems and processes. You don't hire, you create processes. You don't do all this busy work. You just simply automate and literally think through the process, and we'll make more money because we'll keep more money. So yeah, it was right away. 1 month in, I knew that the whole industry of direct response and e-commerce was missing the operations key to it all.
So how did you realize that it was your unicorn? How did you realize that, hang on a minute, this is something that I'm good at, I can see?
I've been good at operations for a long time in every industry. Every industry I've worked in, I've been in a few. A COO is a COO is a COO, right? Like, all I'm trying to do is figure out how to keep the money. It's a puzzle. All of it's a puzzle. But I think I realized that I was a unicorn and had this really special talent for our niche when I kind of stumbled across the visionary entrepreneur integrator relationship, because that was unknown to me. And then I realized, like, all of these guys are calling their high school friends their COOs, and people who are really, really decent at marketing, but not systems or people development, they're COOs. And they're not COOs, they're not executive level anything, but it's because marketing is sexy, traffic is sexy, conversion rate optimization is sexy, and operations is not. It's mundane, and you have to think through, God forbid you think through anything, right? And I know where I want to go, but how do I create the map to get there? And then how do I, as a leader, get people to all get in their canoes and row in the same direction at the same time, on the same path, all the way to the tree you're trying to get to? And that's, basically what operations is, right? And so I just realized nobody had that it just didn't exist in our space. And people who said, oh yeah, I do ops, none of them actually did operations. And all of them thought operations was a department. Operations isn't a department. It's in every department. It's in every business. It's in every product. It's in everything. And so it just kind of hit me like a brick. Like, they don't even understand that this is why they're all broke, pretending to be rich.
Yeah, I had a coach, Ari Meisel, and Ari used to talk to me about systems, and it was one of those things, and I became the obvious poster child to the dysfunctional entrepreneur. We all think that we can't have systems and operations because as entrepreneurs, we're all over the place. We're constantly creative. And he used to talk about monkey brain and monkey learning, and taught me that as wild and as creative and as all over the place that we like to think we are, There's a lot of repetition to the day that if we just outsourced that to a process, to a system, it would actually give us more time in the day, which at the end of the day, we want more money. But at the end of the day, we actually want more time to do something with that money. So building up those systems was important. You became the golden child for that. And I know, as I say, you work with Perry Belcher, Carson, Jason Fladlin, some of the biggest names out there, and building that up. But where do you feel that the entrepreneur makes the mistakes in ignoring the systems they need to take on?
Yeah. So how many of the names that you just said came out with a product offer and was ready to take money before they created the product?
Yeah. Perry's the poster child.
We have to watch Perry's Facebook to see what we're going to do the next day. What are we going to be working on? But it's everybody has their superpower, and the people that you mentioned, I've been fortunate to work with some of the biggest names in our industry and some of the most brilliant people on earth, but also the most self-defecating, because they just don't even understand that, like, the money's right here. We just need to keep it. Like, we have it now. Let's figure out how to keep it. But that's not fun for them. Shiny objects and new opportunities and the money that they're leaving on the table. And my least favorite words in the world are, you know what we ought to do? Because it usually means that my quarterly goals are going to be secondary to the new thing, which is why they don't keep the money, right? And so we've just found over and over and over again that if we can run it autonomously with their marketing and their traffic, and they can see it all come together, and then the calm and the ease it brings, then they're ready to conform and ready to go. But it's not sexy. It's not fun. They want to think through the product creation and the delivery and the premium bonuses that they're going to give people, that they want to do what's their superpower, not what's uncomfortable. And they want to pay attention to what is their thing, like, that they know how to control.
Entrepreneurs love to reinvent things, and entrepreneurs get to a situation when everything's going really, really well. That's usually when they fuck it up and go, let's try this, and it all goes to pot. I know that there's a part of an entrepreneurial brain that needs to live in the disruption element of how to disrupt this industry, how to add this, how to add more value.
Integrator, which is why you need a good integrator, because that person can sit with you and be, Steve, that's a great idea. Do you know how many ideas a day I get from the people I work with?
Thousands. Yeah.
99% go in the trash because they're crazy. 1% goes on a shelf or in a box for later because we've got so much going on, because they had 1,000 ideas the day before too, right? So having someone who can say, ooh, that's a really good idea. Let's figure out how to fit this in. And all the rest of that, may be good, may not be good, may be great, may not be great. Either way, we don't have time or resources for it because we're going to lose over here. So let me get you excited about over here again. See this membership area, we would get more money if you could get in here and create some new products in the membership area for month 4 through 9, because that's where we're losing people. So you have to know how to redirect them to what is their superpower and what is fun for them, because when everything is working like a machine, like it's supposed to, they feel left out and unimportant. And the most important thing for them is that they're important and that they're not left out. But they also don't want to work on the crap that they already worked on. So you got to have new stuff for them all the time.
I was that person until Henry kind of got a grasp and went through it. And the thing that really got me into the systems, and I'm still not good with systems and process. It's Henry. Henry turns around and says, we're doing this because it will simplify. And I'm like, okay. And he's earned my trust. That I'll actually implement it now. But the first thing that I noticed was that when an entrepreneur is working on something, there's the hope, the vision, the passion, the sex appeal. Right. But with systems, there's the facts. Right. And the facts don't lie. If your product is not selling, you're making no money and you're going out of business. If you've got a bottleneck that systems will expose, that you've got this, but it's not getting out in the distribution because of X, the systems won't lie. They have no emotions. They're the facts. Right. Did you have much of an engineering, mathematical a brain as you grew up?
I'm not a math person, but I'm a patterns person. I'm a puzzle person. So
Well, I know.
I like that for me is just so much more advantageous for the role that I choose to do. And so when I can see a pattern of how things work that for some reason, I don't know why most people just can't see, I can put the pieces together over and over and over again in different things to create the outcome. But when you talk about systems don't lie, they don't. But here's the thing, if you have a good integrator, almost anything you can come up with can be profitable. It's just usually not profitable right away because you didn't think through all the things, right? All the delivery, all the pieces, all the components. And so if we can spend a little bit of time on that on the back end, the biggest thing that I see is people that's scary to me, that puts entrepreneurs out of business. They have a product that's selling like crazy. So they don't want to not sell it. They don't want to go up in price because you don't mess with what's working. You've heard this before.
Oh, yeah.
But on the profitability side, once you get done paying for traffic and COGS and all that other stuff, which they don't even understand what it is, and processing fees and all these other things, there's no money left for them. And as a matter of fact, they're paying $1 every time they give somebody their product. And so working through that with them and then coming up with solutions to those problems is probably the biggest thing that an integrator and ops person can bring to the table for you.
I'm interrupting this podcast for 35 seconds to give you more value. If you are an ambitious entrepreneur looking for the opportunity in everything you come across, don't just listen to this podcast. Imagine taking part in these conversations every week. Imagine having a new network of creative and disruptive entrepreneurs to support and push you into becoming the person you can be. With this high level and exclusive community, it exists. Head to simsdistillery.com to learn more. I remember Joe Polish always used to question people, how much are you paying to be in business? Because the entrepreneur, there would be like 10 entrepreneurs around just going, oh yeah, we're doing this and we're moving into this and we're moving. And they really had no idea of what they were boasting about. You've actually...
I got money in the bank, so I got money, right?
I noticed that there's 3 kinds of preneurs in the planet. There's the entrepreneur, the intrapreneur, and the wantrepreneur. Now, the wantrepreneur is the person that sees the shiny car but don't want to put the work in. That's always going to bitch and moan that it's everyone else's fault that they're not making money. The entrepreneur gets a lot of shit kicking and scars, and every entrepreneur out there has been broke, both mentally and financially, many, 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 many times, to the point that they've got a bit kind of like, we'll get over it again. And then there's this vital cog that I got introduced to years ago, the intrapreneur. That person that delves into the world of the entrepreneur to sustain that productivity, to sustain that creativity, as quite simply a very important cog in that entrepreneurial wheel. How do you handle the mindset, the frail ego, the creativity, the anxiety of an entrepreneur and steer them into making it a process to make it profitable?
Sure. So that's actually a long journey. That doesn't happen overnight. The very first thing that I do is something called a WAVE, which is a foundational framework. I want to know everything that they want in life, personally, professionally, what they want out of their business, what they want out of their staff, like really, not what they tell people, but I make them think about it. We do a 3-day offsite where we go through their written vision, their absolute focus, their values, and how they want to execute things. And this allows me so much information about how they think, what they want, what they told themselves at the beginning that they wanted, and what I was able to draw out after 3 days of what they really wanted, because you'd be amazed how much that changes. And that, like, learning how they talk and they think and they feel, and then meeting them where they're at instead of where I'm at or halfway. You can't meet an entrepreneur halfway. You got to go to where they are, hold their hand, and then walk them all the way down the valley to your side of things, nice and slow and easy and comfortably, is how I've learned to do it over time. It's really about figuring out how they connect with people, and every one of them is going to be different, right? How they connect and how they like to be talked to. And honestly, most of the entrepreneurs that I've worked with just want to be told what to do. They don't want to be the one anymore that is like, they want to create the products. They want to create the offers. They want to create the price points, but they don't want to figure out how the business makes money. They want someone else to own that. And all of the crap that comes with that and the fires that come up with that, if you can deal with that too, and just let them go sit and be in their best self and superpower, you can usually get them to do almost anything that needs to be done in the business to move it forward, because you've earned their trust, because you learned what they wanted and how they wanted it, and then you brought them receipts.
You've almost become a deep therapist to them. I've actually noticed.
In forensic psychology, right? And
Yeah.
It's the only way I'm able to do it, I'm pretty sure.
I've actually noticed, because we've known each other for a while, and I'm a nosy person when I'm looking at people, and I've actually watched you. You have the gift, but it's through the hard work, and it's through the process that you've just spoken at. You will communicate with X differently that you will communicate with Y, and differently that you will communicate with Z, but seamlessly you will integrate with each one of these people at their level, at their tempo, and at their speed that they need in order to become the best part of themselves. And you're right, they do it, and I've seen this. They do end up giving up what they're kind of holding on to and go, well, we'll run with it. And I use the example of Henry. I've done that with Henry. But you've now taken it a step further into writing a book about it. And I believe the book's Scope. Is that correct?
It is.
We can go into why you work with Scope, why you called it Scope. But before you do that, where's the best place for people to actually go and find out about this book?
Sure. Readscope.co.
All right. Okay, that's an easy one there. We'll put it in the show notes below. I know that if you purchase it, there's some goodies. So go over there and check that out and find out what you can get from picking up that book. But I want to know two things. What does Scope stand for? And then the big one is, why do the book? Because you're so heavy on everything else. I always like to ask, because writing a book is tough. We spoke about before the ins and outs of ups and downs of, how things bloody work in writing a book. I want to get into that, but why Scope, and what does it stand for?
Sure. So Scope is actually an acronym. And so S is setting your vision. C is create processes. O is operational excellence. P is people development, God forbid. And E is execution. And I actually have a big arrow that goes across and it says move. Like you actually have to move. You actually have to do things. And so that's what the acronym stands for. The reason I wrote the book is because I would get on stages and I would speak about what we were doing with our clients and how we were doing it. And people were pretty intrigued by it. And we were trying to follow a couple of different operational frameworks, from EOS to Scale to Vivid Vision. I read all the books, right? And I would pull elements in from all of them. And there were parts that worked and parts that didn't. And we were working mostly with visionary entrepreneurs who are in direct response and e-commerce with all remote teams. And most people aren't employees, they're vendors. So all of these operational frameworks are built for like warehouses and manufacturing plants and, brick and mortar where everybody's working in the same place as employees, and massive executive boards. And so I pulled a bunch of different elements and we just kept playing with it and testing it. And honestly, I'm a nut when it comes to split testing. I love split testing. Ever since I learned about split testing, I love split testing everything. So we would have clients and I'd be like, well, we're going to try this with this one and we're going to try that with that one and that one. Well, that didn't work. So we're not ever going to do that again. And let's see how our results go. And we just kept refining it and for years. And then over the past 3 years, I started documenting it and then changing it and updating it and documenting. I rewrote the book probably 6 times while creating it. But we wrote it because so many people would ask me, like, where is all of this in writing? Do you have any documentation of this? And it's like, no. We just iterate our SOPs and what we're doing. So how do I take the SOPs, explain it to everybody, and then make it so that they understand the SOPs and why we got here, how we got here, because some of it seems outlandish. One of the things that I talk about in the book is a foundational framework. Nobody has this. You wouldn't build a house on top of a slab that didn't have a foundation, right? So why are you building a business as you go. Like I thought of a product, so now I'm going to go get an LLC, but only because I tried to get a merchant account without one. So let's actually create a plan on all of this and see what you want for the long haul so that people can actually step in and help you and make decisions on your behalf. And it just taking the time to think through the business and how the business runs, and then how the business runs day to day to keep everything moving will really help the anxiety and the stress of owning a business. And that's why we wrote the book.
You mentioned in the acronym of SCOPE, the personal side of things. Is the personal element you, the entrepreneur that's constantly looking at the shiny object, the biggest bottleneck that gets in the way of you actually following a process like yours?
So I think what you're talking about is we look at when we're creating the foundational framework, we look at the personal life that the entrepreneur is trying to create and the business life, because very often it's, me and my wife with our 2 little kids are going to move to a lake in the next 10 years, and I'm not going to work but 2 hours a week, and we're going to eat healthy, and I'm going to be at every football game my kids have, and dinner every night, and ride our bikes to school. It's crazy things. But then they want a 10X every year for the next 10 years and be $1 billion supplement brand. It's like, those things don't match, bro. Like, you can't, that's not good. So you're replacing yourself as CEO and someone else coming in to run it while you're off hanging out with your kids. And it's like, no, of course not. Well, how does this work? How does this actually work? And I call them out on their shit, basically, and just say, these 2 things don't live together. So you need to go to bed tonight. It's usually the end of day 1 a wave. You need to go to bed tonight, and you need to look at these 2 side by side. And you need to decide which one you're going to give up on. Like, which side, what do you not give up on? But yeah, what are you going to sacrifice? Are you sacrificing dinner with the kids at 4 o'clock every day and bike rides every morning? Or are you sacrificing the 10X and maybe we'll go up 10%? Right? What are you going to do here? So that's their personal part of it, because they resent themselves in the business when they don't get to do things. If that makes sense at all. How many times have you heard from the people you're coaching, I never have a damn minute to think. I never have a damn minute to hang out with my girlfriend. I never have a damn minute to relax. You built this way. You did this, and you're mad at who? Who are you mad at? Let's plan it together in a better way so that you can check off all the boxes for yourself.
Yeah, I noticed very quickly two emotional roller coasters that I went through. When Henry started building in these systems, I noticed straight, and I'm a great advocate for systems, hated them, absolutely despised them, because now I was having to learn a new structure and a new routine.
Perry Belcher, the first time I handed him an SOP, he's like, if I do it the same way every time, how am I going to find a better way to do
it? That's classic Perry, just there in a nutshell.
He's not wrong, but
No, he's not. But again, as you've said before, the system isn't there to be sexy. It's to work.
Right.
And it's like trying to drive a car on square wheels. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to understand that it's the best thing that works for that momentum. The 2 roller coasters that I went through was, one of them, the kind of anguish that I was learning something else, but then the relief as well that, hang on a minute, I'm now being given time. Right. And then the second roller coaster, and this was the one that all entrepreneurs need to be aware of. If you read SCOPE, and I know, Emma, so I know this is going to happen to you. If you read SCOPE, and the primary thing here, implement the strategies to build up those systems and processes for you, you will suddenly find that you have more time. And then you start having this fear of kind of like, well, what do I do now? And I went through this kind of cold turkey that I found that I had comfort in this kind of fanatic way of life, that when the systems and processes came along, all of a sudden that was done at 10, and at 10:20, I no longer had to do it. I was kind of like, well, what now? And there was this weird kind of almost like coming out of a nightclub at 2 o'clock in the morning and then suddenly going into a quiet room. There was this cold turkey of, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? How do you handle that bit?
Sure. And part of our execution plan is coming up with the next set of things for the entrepreneur. So as soon as they're done with their role and their part, They have a whole nother list of things that they're working on, while the team is simultaneously working on plugging in the last thing they did. So they're getting the next thing ready for the team, which is generally product creation, product development, the sales pages, working with marketing to set up the mechanism, the big idea, the bonuses, and we're all plugging in the last thing so that they're not stuck with that. And you can move so much faster. Where you used to be able to get out 2 new products a year, you can now get 2 products a quarter out because everybody knows how everything else needs to go. The back end of your business just runs like a cog in a clock, if you think about it that way. Everything just is smooth. So I don't give them their time back so that they can hang out, because not an entrepreneur on the planet, not a visionary I've ever met wants to do that. They actually want the chaos. And if I don't give them chaos, they'll give it to me. So I'm going to give it to them so that I can plug in what we've agreed to over here, and you get to make the next mess for me to figure out. And that's how we handle it personally, how I handle it. So I can't leave them sitting, because they'll set on fire what I'm working on. They won't be able to help it.
They will do. It's like the classic entrepreneur, and I knew this through when I ran my concierge firm. The whole family would want to go to the beach, and then they'd be sitting on the beach going, "Oh, what about this? And I've got to do this proposal, and what can I screw up or disrupt or break?" The entrepreneur seems to feel as though it needs to live in that kind of chaos, and I think more and more we're realizing that it needs to live in creativity, which is different to chaos. And if you've got the system, your creativity can lead to impact and not the chaos. So you've got this book coming out. You told me why. What do you think is going to do to your life?
What do I think is?
What do you think is going to do to your life? Because you've been on systems, and a lot of it, this is your first book, isn't it?
This is my first book.
Books are weird, because books are like having an apartment in New York and raising a crocodile and then opening the door and let it go out. You're now responsible for everyone it bites, but you can't control it anymore. Who picks it up? Who talks about it? Where it goes? Are you ready? Because you are very, very much of a control person. How are you going to be about that?
I don't know. This is why I've rewritten it, and it's taken 3 years, because everything changes. AI happened, everything changed, right?
Yeah.
Robotics changed, everything changes. That's the one constant. And so for a long time I was like, what if I decide to change something in the system and I've released the book? Or what if people think it's stupid? Or what if people don't read it right and then they screw up everything and it's my fault? What a stupid thing to think, by the way. What a dummy. Because if an entrepreneur said that to me, I'd be like, are you stupid? Like, let go. So I'm going to let go. The book is actually 1 of 5. I have the outlines for the rest, and the second book almost already written. So it's actually 1 of 5 books. Each one of the acronyms have a book of its own. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm definitely not ready, but I'm never going to be ready.
True.
And if I am, I probably screwed up and waited too long.
That's beautiful. Again, tell us, where can we find this book?
So readscope.co. And we do have a bunch of bonuses. Can I tell them about that really quickly?
Please do.
So as of today, as of my call from Steve, I'm going to have a bookmark in there now. But there's some bonuses there, and I'm super excited to offer them. We have several things. Number one, there's an accompanying workbook that we're going to 1 out of 5 people give a free PDF copy for. We also have a box version of the book that comes with a ton of goodies. And I love this. Steve actually told me to do this, so I'm going to do this. For the first 100 people that buy the book, I am going to run a raffle, and they're going to get a 1-hour coaching call with yours truly. So thank you, Steve, for that little tidbit. But check the site out. There's lots of free tools, actually. So when you see something where it talks about write this out and journal about this, I actually have free tools with templates, with prompts to do that. I don't just leave you hanging to come up with it on your own. And we do have a lot of visuals in the book itself too. So when I talk about creating a wave, and that'll make more sense in the book, which is a foundational framework. I actually give examples of what that should look like, so you can share your vision with your team in one place on one quick card in a visual way with an image. So super excited to launch, and very, very excited to get feedback on it.
Good. I'm going to tell everyone to go out there, try and get the box version of her book, because she told me a lot of the goodies that are in that box setup. That's attractive, but I've got to admit, what's better than that is getting an hour with this girl that doesn't hold anything back. She will shake you up, kick you in the nads, tell you what you don't want to hear, but you need to be doing. So she's not going to mince it and waste your time, because she viciously cares. That should be a t-shirt, viciously cares. I like that.
I like that.
That should be that. Emma, thank you so much for spending your time on the podcast with us today. I want people to grab scope and to do something with that system so they can create more impact. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. You know what to do. If you love it, share, subscribe, but more than anything, do something with it. And remember, life's too short to play it safe. So disrupt, connect, and grow. See you next time.